It's Robin with LeBlond V Farm. We're over at our new property, and the water line going to the home here. There's some leaks inside the home. There's too many leaks for the owner to fix. We're leasing this property, so I am actually installing a faucet. They don't have one outside. They don't have a cutoff. They have a cutoff to the house, but they don't have a faucet here for us to use outside so that we can provide water to the animals. So I've got this cut out, and I'm going to be installing a faucet actually where the line was busted here. So what I've got going on is we're in North Louisiana. We don't get a whole lot of super cold hard freezes, but it does happen from time to time. We had an ice storm recently, really wrecked people's world, because it's something we're not used to. So what I'm going to do is put a couple of T's in here with a valve so that I can essentially create a frost-free setup where the pipe up out of the ground will be drained down underground. I could put in a frost-free hydrant, which we have, but again, this is a rental property, so they're not cheap. So I'd rather not put it on a rental property, at least not to begin with. I don't know where we're going to end up running some water lines later if this does become a long-term, or a very long-term situation for us. So I've got this dry fitted now. This gumbo soil that we are dealing with here is pretty rough, so I'm gonna backfill with sand initially, because this stuff is, to give you an idea what I'm dealing with here. You see it's rough, so it's not going to fill in very well underneath this pipe. So I've got some sand. I'm going to fill that in, and then I'll backfill on top of it after I basically cover the pipe as best I can in the sand. But before I get to that point, I need to glue everything together. I'm going to let it cure, come back, water test it, make sure everything's good before I backfill anything. When we know we've got some really cold weather coming in and possible freeze, I'll have a box, which I have over here. So I've got to install that before I glue any of this together anyway. I'll be able to close this valve, open this valve, and this pipe here will drain down and just pour out into the box. This is not something we're going to have to do every day throughout our winter. It's only going to be periodically, every so often that this would be a possibility. And of course, I'm not going to have this pipe just exposed anyway. It's scheduled 40 to begin with. That is almost good enough for us. If it's got wind block, then it's almost definitely good enough for us. But I will have this also wrapped in insulation. I'm going to put a T-post here so I can attach it to it, so it's not a concern of it getting snapped over if an animal got to it or something like that. But this will provide us the ability to drain this line all the way down to this point here. And then of course it'll still have water from here down, but that'll be all right because it will be underground. So all of these steps should make it easy for us to keep our lines from freezing. Granted, our hoses may still be frozen. We do get, as you can see, we've got the sun out right here. Any lines we have running out this way, of course, we'll disconnect, let them drain out on their own, and then of course being out in the sun will help thaw out any residual water that's left in them. And again, we don't deal with super hard freezes. I know people up north certainly deal with that, and this would not be something that would work up north, but down here it'll work just fine for us. I'm going to slide these valves over. Okay, that is how we're going to do it. I was thinking I needed to have my spout coming up, my pipe coming up in the same spot as my T's, but I actually don't. This way, it's over here, it's further out of the way. In case we have to do any little bit of mowing and weeding around here, this is up over here closer to this pole. This is far enough away I can easily put this in, no problem. And I can access it, no problem. Mow around it, not an issue. Weed eat, whatever we have to do. And certainly if I run an electric fence through here, no problem for that either. And this is why I always dry fit and then walk through to make sure that there's nothing I'm overlooking. Now, could run the pipe through here, but I'm going to cut it. Alright, I got it all glued in. I actually had to weigh it down a little bit because where this ground started drying up, the way this gumbo is, it starts kind of expanding out almost. And so this was getting pried up even more than it was. So I got it weighted down, got everything glued in. The only thing that I kind of messed up on was I bought the wrong adapter for here. I had a 3/4 slip to a 1/2 inch threaded instead of a 3/4 threaded. So I think I've got a few of those at the house. If not, I'll have to run and grab it from the store, no big deal. That's just one little minor thing. The big thing is going to be testing the water after this is cured. I'll let this cure for 24 hours and test it. If it works, then I'll fill everything in with sand, put my box here where my valves are, and then backfill everything as best I can with this chunky gumbo. So that's a nice little step on my to-do list for over here. So this is the entrance to the property here. This is the driveway coming in. You got to set a couple of posts, put a couple of gates up there. This is very edge of the property here. There is some fencing, a couple of different types of fencing. So the house here, we're not really going to be doing anything with it. We'll just kind of try to keep the underbrush at bay. There's a few carports like this. There's like 3 different double carports. He's going to be taking one to his property across the street, but that leaves us with 2 more that we can use, which will be really handy for working on projects, parking something underneath it, even possibly some winter animal shelter if need be. If we can set up a deep bedding, I mean, who knows, we might even do like a pig port over here. So this is the here's one of the other carports. Property line continues down. We came through and bush hogged almost this entire property. Here's our other double carport. Just have to clean it out and move everything into one of these sheds. Got a couple of rolls of welded wire here. That should take care of that one fence line that is evidently missing quite a bit of fence. I left one patch, well, technically 2, but this one area, you can see here, I left this. We didn't bush hog yet. It could be bush hogged, it's not wet. But I left it because I want to see, I want to bring the sheep in and see how they do on this. See what they eat and what they don't eat. Just from a, mostly just a curiosity standpoint to see how much forage we could get. Because if they do eat a significant amount of this, then we know that we can stockpile something like this for wintertime. Really cut back on our hay requirements. So again, this was all bush hogged. Back there we didn't really mow that down very much at all. It had already been hit, so that's why it's a little taller back there than it is here. We bush hogged this whole area. I've got a video here where we came through. We bush hogged this first. I bush hogged it, and my dad came behind me with his 0 turn and cut it as low as he could, because this is where we're going to set up our market garden. We only had that one silage tarp, 20 by 30. At our property at home, that seemed kind of big, but out here it just swallows it up. So I've got a couple of rolls of weed mat that we'll put down once we're ready to actually, once the bed's fully prepped. And then I got one roll of ag plastic, another silage tarp. Funny enough, I can't even remember what size I bought. I think it's a 40 by 50. It's pretty large. That's about the size bed that I have to go back and look at what I calculated, but I think a 40 by 50 is what I came up with, which again, this is a 20 by 30, so we're talking about doubling the width and not quite doubling the length.